Hi, love. So here's the MLA and Senior Research Investigation process, continuing how to help us make sense of what we're exploring. So by request, here is a video lecture about MLA 8. So we're going to look at why MLA, the basics of formatting. We're going to look at works consulted / works cited entries and in-text citations, and then we'll just do a quick recap. So why MLA? MLA, I mean, you've probably been hearing that since your freshman year, maybe even middle school, and you may not even know what it is. So the Modern Language Association is the principal professional association of scholars for, or of language and literature. And so they get together and basically make a lot of rules up of standardizing format so things are easy to follow and read in the world of language and literature. This is something that provides consistent formatting for us with these papers. It allows for documentation and citing sources so that you can avoid plagiarism and all those things we talked about in the note-taking video. And also, this is something that Westerly High School has adopted as their school-wide formatting. So while Modern Language Association MLA formatting is not the only one, Harvard has it, Chicago Turabian has one, APA is probably what many of you will use in your graduate work as you move forward. There are lots of different kinds of formatting spaces. MLA happens to be the one that this school uses and a lot of schools use. The most important thing, though, is not that you're memorizing every little part of MLA, but that you as a student, an adaptable student, can learn any kind of formatting. You can look it up, you can follow it to a T, and so it's just really just kind of an important skill as an academic and as a student. So basics for formatting, you probably know this from other papers that we've done this year and last year and the year before, etc. But basically you have 1-inch margins, it's double spaced, so no extra little double spaces between titles and first paragraphs. It's just consistently double spaced. The font is typically Times New Roman font size 12. Westerly High School also allows for Calibri 11. So one of those two. The first page in the upper left-hand corner typically contains the name, instructor, course, and date in the MLA format, which is the day, space, month, space, year, with no commas. Running header in the upper right-hand corner with your last name, space, page number. So Smith 2, for example, in the upper right. And the way you do that in Google Docs is just make sure you insert page number and pick the one in the upper right. And then, of course, the title is centered. Now, here's an example. You can see how it's broken down for you. It has the date in the correct space. It shows you where to put everything. So focus on the blue boxes. Those contain the directions for writing and citing MLA. Now, for the purposes of this paper, and it will depend on your professor as you move forward if they want a title page or not, we are going to use a title page ultimately for this. So how you do that, there's an example on the left that I've placed. Basically, the directions are select double spacing in your document. Make sure that that's a very important step. Enter from the top 5 times. Write your academic title. Write and then enter 5 more times. Write your name. Don't put by colon in your name. Just write your name. Enter 5 more times and write your teacher's name, so in this case, Miss Barnhart. Enter 1 more time, then AP Literature and Composition. Enter 1 more time, and then write the date in that MLA format. So again, for the purposes of this paper, we will be doing formatting a title page. Now, works consultant, works cited, this is where the juicy good stuff happens and that people are stressed out about. This is a very basic visual of what is included in what order and what punctuation mark follows. MLA 8 is actually a lot more streamlined and easy than previous versions of the Modern Language Association formatting, so you're kind of lucky, even though it doesn't feel like it. So it just basically goes author, period, title of source, period, title of container, which would be where you find it, comma, other contributors, if that is valid and relevant, comma, version, if that's relevant, comma, number, if that's relevant, comma, publisher, always relevant, comma, publication date, always relevant, comma, and then the location. So that would be your website or your book or whatever. So that all ends it with a period. So this is like a quick visual of how to do that. Let's look at some examples. I have the visual that we just looked at up in the right corner. Now you can look at like, what does this look like when it comes to one author, article on the web, scholarly articles, two authors, or more than two authors. So in each of the cases, you see that the last names go first. Then you have comma first name. Then you'll have the title, so it might be the whole book, which is italicized, as we're learning the difference between smaller pieces. For example, this small piece of an article is in quotes, but it's the larger container that it's found in is italics. In a book, you just have the container. You don't have like the smaller piece. So you can see that even though all these are options, in this case, you just have author, title, publisher, date. We don't need to put the location because it's not a web source. Here you have author, title, container, date, and then where you find it. So you can see that. Two things to note. It gets really complicated here. We know that we can find those easily in a lot of the, like if JSTOR is our database, oftentimes they do it for you. Just make sure you pick MLA. And this you can see that there's more of these up here on the right involved in a scholarly article. Two authors, note that it is whoever the primary person is. Oftentimes it's alphabetized, not always, depends on who you're looking at. So Gillespie, comma, Paula, and then the second name is always first name last. So that's an important thing to note. And then if there are more than two authors, in the new MLA, you don't have to list like 15 authors. You can just put the primary author and then et al., which means like and everyone else, essentially, in Latin. So just a quick thing with how to cite them internally, and this is something we talked about with notes. Make sure as you're taking notes that you're writing last name, page number, or last name of your source so that when you go back to use those for your synthesis part of this project, you have it at the ready. So you can see that it's always last name. If there is a page number, it's just a space, no comma, page number. There is no page, it's just the last name. So here it's the same with the scholarly article. Where it gets different, and these people did not do it, but MLA 8 rules do say that you should put both of the names, so Gillespie and Lerner, page 7. And then for this one, for the more than two authors, you do Wasaki et al. Space 27, so that we know that it's and everyone else. For the works cited page, then you take all of those, make sure, again, that you follow those basic formatting rules. You have double space consistently. There's no extra space here. You have a title. We would call it works consulted, right, in this case. But everything is hanging indent. And you'll see over here on the side that it is alphabetized by whatever you see first. So even if there's not an author, you're going to alphabetize in whatever you see first. Now, in the case of our works consulted, that will be the thing that is in order of alphabetically. Your actual literature review is going to be organized by type. So just keep that in mind, that those are two different spaces. You don't have to organize your literature review by alphabet, but you do need to organize your works consulted. So just to recap, MLA is more than a heading. We always say MLA heading, MLA heading. It's a writing lifestyle, and it is one that we have adopted as a school. It feels annoying. I know some of you are like annoyed when you lose points about it or whatever, but it is super worth it. And it's a good skill to learn no matter if you're doing it in MLA or APA or Turabian or the Harvard style, but you have to learn how to kind of like work within some structural confines. Stay organized and meticulous along the way to minimize the minutia. Make sure that you're writing down where you get these things, and when you look at a source, just quickly do the works consulted along the way so you don't have to go back and do it later. It just saves time, and that's, both of, basically, at least this year, both of you have a goal in your community agreement to like work smarter and harder. So just keep that in mind. Finally, if you are challenged by this and you don't know where to go, and you're like, I'm so lost, check out Purdue University's OWL or Ask for Help if you get stuck. One final kind of hint, I would use bibme.org if you're going to be using one of those sources online to do it, but always double check.